And phone number that ends in 497. Could you let us know who you are?
Yes, I'm the owner of the house in Royersville.
Ah, Mr. Rotunda. Thank you.
Yes.
Hello, Anne. How are you this evening?
I'm
Good.
good.
And yourself?
Phone number ending in 383. Is that Commissioner Klein?
That's Jeff Fine.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. Good evening to everybody.
Hello, Jen Forger with Renewable Energy Solar, correct?
That's correct.
Good evening.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Megan, are we expecting Vernell and Edie this evening?
Yes, sir. Vernell's connecting now. And I believe Courtney should be here too.
We'll wait a moment for them to join up then.
Hello, this is Vernell. Can you hear me?
Ken Vernell, how are you?
Hi, good. Thanks so much. All ready.
Hello, Courtney. How are you this evening?
I'm well. How are you all?
I'm well, thank you. And we did start the recording and live stream. So for those of you that are joining us via phone, please be sure to remain muted unless it's your turn to present or speak. You can use *6 for the Zoom software or your phone's mute feature. And then if you are connecting via computer, please just use the mute button until you're ready to speak with that as well. Thank you.
Greg,
Yes.
you have a quorum, so you can start anytime you want.
Very well then. It is 7 p.m. on February 2nd, 2022. Welcome to the monthly meeting of the Historic District Commission of Washington County. I am Greg Smith, Chairman, and I guess the first thing I'm going to do is ask for a roll call of members for the record, and we'll follow that with an identification of visitors. So members, please speak up.
Ann Aldrich. Vernell Doyle,
Courtney Lowry,
Michael Lushball,
Jeff Klein, Commissioner.
I'd like our visitors present to please identify themselves also and state who you're representing if applicable.
I'm Jen Ford from Renewable Energy Corporation.
And Renewable Energy Corporation.
And I'm Shane Rotondo, the owner of the residence in Roarsville.
Very well. We also have here Megan Jenkins and Deb Eckard, our staff. I guess the first item of business on the agenda is minutes. We have here summary minutes of our workshop from December 1, 2021. Has everybody received those summary minutes?
yes,
yes,
yes.
If there are any comments on them, we can entertain them now. Hearing no comments on the summary minutes, do I have a motion to accept them as written?
I make a motion, we accept them as written. This is Michael.
This is Courtney, I second.
Very well. All those who vote to accept the summary minutes, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the summary minutes of the workshop are accepted as written. We also have the minutes of the actual meeting from December 1, 2021. If anyone has any comments or corrections on those minutes, please speak up now. Hearing no comments, do we have a motion to accept the minutes of the meeting from December 1 as written?
I make a motion, we accept them. This is Michael.
Second, Vernell.
Having a motion and a second, everybody vote to accept the minutes of the HDC meeting for December 1 as written. Please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the minutes of the meeting from December 1 are accepted as written. Okay, that gets that out of the way. We have new business this evening, and the first item is a permit, 2022 number 00017 in Roarsville. Megan, can you enlighten us on this?
Certainly. So this is for the installation of roof-mounted solar panels on the front and the rear on one side of the rear to the dwelling. This particular structure is part of the Roarsville district, as well as having an individual listing within that. So it's contributing to our Roarsville Rural Village. So this particular permit would be for your approval or denial at tonight's meeting. So I went to the site to take a couple of pictures. This is going to be pictures of the front elevation of the building. This is during the very, very beginning of the afternoon, just to try to give you a little perspective. This is the side of the building where the electrical meter is. So it's when you're facing the building to the right of the structure. There will not be any proposed solar panels on this back portion of the building on the lower picture, because I don't believe that one will get enough sun. And then this is the other elevation where solar panels would be installed other than that front picture. And then I do have the layout of the solar panels. I did provide the property owner and the applicant the information from the National Park Service regarding the installation of solar panels and the measures that can be put in place to minimize those. Preferred methods being to either ground mount or avoid the front elevations of the structure. We do have both the owner of the structure, Mr. Rotundo, here on the phone, as well as Jen Ford and Andrew Clark, both from Renewable Energy Solar as well, if you have any specific questions. Again, this permit, because it is in the Roarsville Historic District, would be for your approval or denial this evening. And I will say, as I drove through the district, I did not see any other ground mounted or solar panels on the sides of the structures, and definitely none along the front. But that was just from a cursory drive through this afternoon. So if Mr. Rotundo is aware of any others, he can feel free to speak up to that. But we do have the review authority in this particular rural village. So with that, if you have any questions for me, I'm here, or we have the applicant again and the owner as well.
All right. Do we have questions from the members to the applicant or the owner?
This is Anne, and I do wonder what kind of consideration you gave to ground mounted to the rear of the house, or even to contacting your neighbors and looking at a community solar where there would be solar panels, ground mounted solar panels somewhere out in the village, but feeding a number of houses, back metering to a number of houses.
We did not actually initially consider a ground mounted system. I wasn't present for the initial meeting between Mr. Rotundo and our salesman where the contract was signed. Had a ground mounted system been viable, I assume that's something they would have discussed then. But again, that is not what is in the contract, nor a community solar project, which would involve, other people getting on board and paying for something like that.
This is Megan again.
Yes,
I did
this is
want to
Mr.
mention something that I had forgotten that the customer informed me of, and that is that this structure's solar is going to be used for backup power for the facility, for the structure. And I believe some of the constraints for the placement of the solar are due to some of the existing pipe work that's on the roof on one of the more southern facing sides. Let me go back a couple pictures. Let me get my pointer. This is actually like a stack pipe in the roof, and I'm assuming that is somewhat restrictive to the mounting of the solar panels. And also their meter is on this side. So I don't know if they can speak to whether that is also restricting their placement of the panels as well. But those are a couple of things that I did discuss with the owner.
So more so than the obstructions on the roof is actually, we do a shade analysis for each project to determine the best solar access on the roof. And those two locations where panels are currently shown are the best. Over the bottom where you were pointing out where those obstructions are, just does not get very, very good access. Anywhere else on that roof doesn't get very good access at all. And to clarify, yes, this will also be used as a battery backup. So if you were to lose power, the panels would still have powered batteries that will run the things in his house that are tied to that.
Okay. This is Greg speaking. When you see solar panels on roofs, typically they're pretty dark, almost black, really.
Mm-hmm.
What color are these panels? Is that so with these? I mean, I know we're talking about a black roof here also.
Yes, they are. The panels are all black. Even the frame, the frame around them is black as well.
Is there any reflective coating on the panels where the sun glints off them?
They're made of I believe it's like a monocrystalline glass. So they're reflective in the way that any glass would be, but solar panels themselves have to be manufactured in a way that they don't cause glare, because you don't want anybody being blinded, and also for aircraft and reasons like that.
So do we have any members who have visited the site and have comments?
I was only
Hey.
able to visit it via Google and uh, having driven through Roarsville in the past.
Megan, could you show the pictures of the house again, please?
Sure.
I play with the Roarsville Band, and I'm pretty familiar with Main Street, and this house looks very good. And I have no problem with solar panels on the roof of the front. And of course, in the back, it's not an issue. I don't think it would be distracting.
Greg speaking here. I drove through Roarsville the other day to get an idea of sight lines and angles for this roof. Proceeding southbound from Boonesboro is how I got there. So when you enter Main Street from that direction, meaning entering from the north, you're coming up the hill to the house. And the way the road is, it's really can't see very much of that front roof surface at all. Went to the other end of town and approached Roarsville from the top of the hill up where the winery is. You still can't see too much of the front, and you only get a glimpse of the back portion because the building just to the south of that is kind of cubical and large and somewhat in the way. So coming from certain directions, you might be able to see the panels, but you don't get any kind of dominant view of them from any direction. It didn't look like to me.
Yeah, this is Courtney. Yeah, I agree with Greg and Vernell that just the way that Roarsville itself is situated, I don't think that it would be a protrusion.
And I might add also that the appearance of this house has been improved tremendously over the last few years, improving Roarsville's overall appeal.
This is Edie. Megan, can you tell us, are there rules about this because it's a historic district?
Because it's the Roarsville district, you guys have the ability to review it for the to make sure that it's consistent with the rural village, and that the Secretary of Interior standards for rehabilitation are your guidelines, but they aren't something that are mandatory in this particular district. So it's something where I provided them with that information. As a preference, they would be located on the back and not visible from the right of way, and as low profile as possible if they do have to be on the front elevations. But there's nothing specific that we currently have that determines whether or not they can or can't be placed in a historic district. It's strictly you guys interpreting the Secretary of Interior's guidance that they have for solar at this time. There is going to be a section of that in the design guidelines that you guys look at later, but for now, it is strictly your determination based on the characteristics of the site, the panels placement, and their profile, and whether or not you feel it would adversely affect the district.
Thank you. I'm not familiar with what the Secretary of Interior has said about solar panels, but personally, I feel like we need to be flexible because I think it's important that we encourage sustainable energy, but also because solar panels are not a permanent change to the structure. So I don't see that it's particularly damaging to the historic building. So I would not be against this.
Thanks, Edie. Those are two great points.
I'd like to thank Greg and Vernell and Courtney for, having been able to get into Roarsville and give us the on-site perspective. You can only do so much through Google. And I really think that Edie made some great points, and I don't have a problem with it. I personally have an historic home and am part of a community solar, and it's a great way to preserve the structures. Our community solar is out in a field versus on the buildings, but kudos for bringing in some renewable energies.
Greg here. I also want to comment. I rather like the layout. You see so many houses with solar panels where things are laid out in broken grids or other strange arrangements going around projections and such. And in this case, the project, you're doing them in nice, neat, kind of modular looking straight lines. I think that is in tune with the roof line of the structure. So that was important to me also.
Yeah, that's something that we aim to do with all of our projects. We kind of take it personally. If this was my house, what would I want it to look like? We take a lot of care and precision in our installations and our designs that way.
All right. Are there any further comments from the members on this before we call for a motion? Okay. Hearing none, do I have an emotion to approve the installation of this panels, approve this permit?
This is Michael. I make a motion, we approve it.
This is Edie. I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second, so let's vote on the approval of this permit. All who wish to approve our building permit here at issue, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, this permit is approved by the HDC. Thank you.
And for the customer and the applicant that are still on the line, you'll be receiving a summary letter from our discussions tonight, and then I will handle the HDC's portion of the permit likely tomorrow. The rest of your permit will be handled through the permitting office if you have any additional questions after that, but I think we might be the last review that you're waiting on for that.
All right, great. Thank you guys so much for the consideration and the approval. Are we good to hop off the meeting now?
Yes, thank you very much for attending.
All right, thank you guys.
All right. Next order of new business is going to be a site up at Penmar, asking for an exception. Megan, could you tell us about this project?
Yes, so Penmar is another historic district where you guys have review authority within. This is a zoning appeal, so we have gotten information that the customer would like to have a use that is outside of the what the zoning would currently allow. It's only through a special exception that they can do a bed and breakfast in the rural village zoning designation. So we get these for your comment, and then we provide those comments to the Board of Zoning Appeals for them to consider during their deliberations. It's not an approval or denial. It's just strictly for your discussion and any recommendations that you might have or suggestions, comments for the Board of Zoning Appeals. This is not a building permit. This is the beginning of the process. So you will see, if this gets approved by the Board of Zoning Appeals, you will see construction drawings and a building permit later down the line. The customer did indicate that this particular parcel used to have a hotel on it. I wasn't able to find that, but that was part of their application packet. They only plan to have a dwelling on here that is of a similar size to like a single family home, 4-bedroom. And I think they're planning to serve the Appalachian Trail crowd or anybody doing just a weekend in the county. So I have a quick picture here that they provided as part of their application. This is kind of what they're planning to do with the site. So limited clearing, and again, it's a small B&B that they are requesting. So I'll leave the discussion up to you guys if you have any comments that you'd like to provide to the BZA.
So Greg here, just so I understand, Megan, this comment just goes as part of the mix up to zoning appeals, and then later on, we'll actually get to see some construction details. And do we have a pass or deny on that?
Yes, you would. You would have comment on it because it's new construction. It's not going to be a contributing structure with you where you would have approval or denial, but you will have design review for the new structure.
So for instance, our design guidelines could come into play there.
Yes, the ones for new construction would come into play there.
Okay. So therefore, let's hear comment from the members, if any.
This is Anne, and I just want to say that I actually think this is a wonderful nod to the historic origins of Penmar. And so I encourage the exception being granted. I just, look forward to the design review, because I think that is actually key to maintaining the rural character of Penmar today.
This is
I agree.
Edie. I totally agree.
I agree with both of you. And I think the applicant has done a tremendous job of presenting his proposal. The only thing we don't have is building plans, but those will come.
This is Courtney. I had a question about this, and I kind of might have be able to answer it myself. I see that it says it's a special exception. So, and since I'm still relatively new, so we are given, we are able to look at a case by case basis when these special exceptions come up. Am I right on that?
Right. So based on your zoning classification here in the county, you have a number of uses that are allowed based on that zoning classification. And then there are uses that are expressly prohibited. And then there are uses that are allowed only through special exception. And because the HDC is allowed to review permits and plans that come in, a special exception falls into that area of comment for you. So they are asking for that special exception since it's not allowed, a bed and breakfast is not allowed in the rural village without that special exception.
Okay, so if we give like a special exception and we think that it's contributing to a historic character in regards for the bed and breakfast, if somebody comes along in a similar fashion and say that a big warehouse is actually permissible in a area and we have to approve or deny, can they come back and cite, well, you gave special exception to this place and it generates just as much traffic or income and egress as we do. Would that like have any holding, or I'm just trying to kind of make sure that we were able to kind of we don't want to set a precedent that would allow something like that down the line. I don't know if I'm being clear or not.
Yes, so each BZA case is examined based on the site and the proposed use of that site. So if someone were to come back in, say this particular project fell through, and someone were to come back in and ask for a different type of special exception, maybe they, I don't know what all the list of special exceptions are in the RV, but I know I'm 99% sure a warehouse is not one of them. But if they were to come in and ask for something off the wall, this case wouldn't provide a precedent for that because you're looking at the specific use of the property that's being proposed at this time. I think, does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Yep. Right on the
Okay.
nose. Thank you.
If I may, I think that because something has been approved, that doesn't necessarily mean that those are all individually looked at. And I can also speak to this from personal experience. My husband and I have a vacation rental in Sharpsburg. We are in a zoned area, residential, but we had to go through the request for a special exception. So I am sympathetic to people who are looking to do the same kind of thing that we have done for the past 15 years. And I can also speak from economic tourism, heritage tourism, that this will, and I mentioned this to in an email to Megan, that this seems to fit perfectly for historic reasons, as Anne had mentioned, and also for the overall appearance. If we have an empty lot here, that I don't know what it might look like right now, but we have land to be cleared, it probably would be an improvement to the whole neighborhood. And it seems it wasn't clear to me, although there was a list of neighbors, the applicant did not say he had approached the neighbors and asked their opinion. But that was something that we had done. And when it came to a hearing for the special exception, the neighbors' input was also important. So I'm all in favor of this and eager to see the plans for the building.
And just to follow up with what Vernell said, that particular process that she just mentioned about the property owners, that list of property owners would have been notified, and this property will be posted ahead, or has already been posted ahead of the BZA meeting, to be able to garner any public input. So your all's input has a similar weight to it, where it's being forwarded to the BZA as part of their deliberation for this particular appeal.
Greg here. My comment on this project, ironically, just last week, me and my wife stayed in a bed and breakfast in a trail town, Damascus, Virginia, which you guys may or may not be familiar with. In that town, the AT runs right down the middle of Main Street. So it's a place very much like this proposal, where a lot of the people served there are trail types and hikers and everything. The place was wonderful. And to come and hear that someone wants to try to do this at Penmar sounded like a great thing. I could just see just how it would work based on the place I just saw. And, I'd kind of be eager to see this happen, as long as our architectural details aren't something obnoxious. So I look forward to the plans as well.
And here comes my broken record again. Megan mentioned the posting of this proposal. And, we want to have, maybe just me, want to have that kind of notice for demolition or change.
I think we all support that, Vernell. This is Anne.
I know, I'm sorry to bring it up again, but, every opportunity.
Agreed. But Megan, I have a question on this special exception, which I'm totally in favor of, but how does it work in a rural village if some of the people in the neighborhood are already doing Airbnbs or vacation rentals? Are they subject to the same requirements that this property is?
Are you asking if an existing use would have gone through this process?
Yeah, I mean, if there was a homeowner up there who had a spare bedroom and had some arrangement where they could list it on Airbnb, do they have to go through the same process? I'm just wondering if there's obviously not another commercial business from the standpoint of a bed and breakfast up there, but are there other temporary housing uses like?
So a bed and breakfast in the zoning ordinance is different than a short-term rental, if I'm not mistaken, which I believe is what they consider your Verbos and Airbnb type uses.
That's right, Megan. That's right.
So there's a different process to that. that the county has in place. And I can try to get with Jill to get a summary of that. I think they put one out when that got passed by the county commissioners, but it is a little bit of a different process. I don't know that it's a full special exception. I think it's part of a different process, but I can check on that. But they are two separate things. This bed and breakfast is one type of use. It's not the same as a Airbnb.
Interesting. Thanks.
Megan, Greg here. I have a question on what we would actually be voting for or not here. As far as I can tell, this is an opportunity for the HDC to comment and provide our opinions, I guess, for the BZA. So is there any motion to be made or anything, or are the sorts of comments we're making on the record here just going to be recorded and forwarded to the BZA and there's nothing to vote on?
I just needed your comments for me to be able to write a response to Katie, who will forward that to the Board of Zoning Appeals for their meeting. It doesn't have to be approved or denied. It's strictly for your comment.
Very well. Any further comments from any members on this property?
Yeah, this is Courtney. I just wanted to make it clear. Yeah, I am in favor of this.
So I'm just going to try to summarize your comments. The fact that this particular rural village has a history of vacation rentals or vacation homes, and the fact that this particular structure will be a similar footprint and use to historic uses in the village. There's no objection to the special exception as it's presented right now, and that the HDC would look forward to the architectural drawings at a later date. And I can provide the customer with the draft ones ahead of time if you'd like. Did I get up everything?
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so, Megan. I wanted to add one other thing. Looking at the site plan on view right now, I appreciate the setbacks here. I cruised by this property. It's completely wooded. They're not with first growth trees. They're big enough. And it looks from this diagram like a good portion of the wooded nature would be kept with the site in the center. So I appreciate that aspect of this particular site plan, though I guess we could see something different at time of submission. All right. If there are no further comments, I guess we can go with Megan's summary and she'll write something up for us. And we can move on to other business if there's nothing to vote on. And that looks like, per the agenda, the design guidelines. Megan?
Yes, so I wanted to give you guys an update on what to expect with the design guidelines. You should be getting a document from us in the next week to 2 weeks. I'm hoping this week. Wyatt and I have been working on this quite diligently, trying to get the document reformatted so that it's up to date with some of our more recent plans, and then also taking into consideration some of the comments from the last time, and then of course rewriting a few of those sections. So I wanted to quickly give you guys a look at what they are looking like so far. Similar still for the setup. Let me give you the table of contents. So it's still the purpose of the guidelines and the application process, talking about demolition and that short history, still going through the architectural styles. The main differences when you guys get this that you'll probably notice is going to be in the guidelines section. And that's really where the bulk of the work that we've been working on with Wyatt has been happening. This is where I was rewriting stuff. We do have 2 new added sections, which are kind of appropriate after tonight. I added a section for solar and other new technologies for environmental sustainability and hazard mitigation, because I see that a lot with some of the other plans that I've looked at, and I hear it a lot from the state. So that hazard mitigation would be things like flood, fire, all that kind of stuff. And then we did add the rural villages inventory as well. So this just gives you an idea of how some of the pages are starting to come together. We've been taking lots of pictures. Got some of the feedback from you guys about where to find structures. So we finally got an Italianate. I just went with Williamsport because it was a good example. And we're going through and combining all of these as much as we can. And you will hopefully be getting this as soon as we finish up with the pictures today. We were working on the guidelines section here with the masonry examples and things like that. So you'll also notice that I saw this in another plan. Each section of the guidelines is going to have an additional resources portion. I stole that idea from Denver. I liked it. So it's where all of the applicable preservation briefs from the Park Service will be included in here, and then any other county level or state level documents that might apply will also be in there. And then I just wanted to briefly show you, we're going to have little summaries for each of the rural villages that you guys have review authority in, and then what that level of review authority is, because some of the rural villages haven't been fully approved. So you just have recommendation, and some of them have, like this particular one. So if a permit were to come in within this area, you would have approval or denial on those for contributing structures, and then new construction, you would have review authority. So we'll have a little note in here about that. And each rural village has a link. Since this document will be available online, we did try to make sure links were active. So they'll be linking out to all the trust files for these as well. And then we have a very extensive glossary section as well that we've added in. And yeah, I just wanted to give you guys an update. You can see it probably looks more complete to you than it does to me. I have several things that I still want to add in. We've taken so many pictures. We're just trying to add applicable pictures in for things. So you should be getting it soon. Wyatt is trying to help me finish up this week, and then I'm going to send it out to our staff, especially Deb, if she has time to read through it and make sure I don't have any typos before we get it back to you guys one more time.
It
Megan,
looks wonderful.
It's looking awesome.
Greg here, I have to say, back in my architecture school days, I was pretty into typesetting and book design and things like that. And this thing is really shaping up. I'm impressed.
I will forward that along to Wyatt because he is the design person and I just give him all the text and the pictures. I had a lovely jaunt down to Hymes's to get a picture down there. And when I went to Roarsville, I went down and got a picture down there. So I've had some nice jaunts out in the county lately.
Probably the best party for your job.
I do like driving around. I got lost on, I didn't get lost. I went down Marble Quarry Road because I had never been down it before. And then I realized that I probably shouldn't go down it when I had to pass a large truck in my little SUV, and the road was about as wide as a toothpick. So it's been a fun exploration. I've seen a lot of houses that I didn't know were there. It's nice to see everything in person. Like I think it was Vernell said it there, maybe it was Anne, that Google doesn't do everything justice. It's nice to get out and look at everything. So
Yeah, I would just like to reiterate that, yeah, it looks awesome. And I think those details that you have about here with like the wood exteriors and like the masonry, that is also really key too.
yes, and we'll, like I said, you guys will be able to give us some more feedback if there's other examples you want to see in there. So we'll get this back to you. Hopefully, Wyatt and I will finish it up this week, and we'll get something either to you early next week or the week after if we have staff look at it one last time for any typos.
Megan, can you refresh us on the process for approval and timeline for that?
Yeah, so your mission from the county commissioners, as it's stated in the zoning ordinance, is to come up with these types of guidelines to make them available to customers and for your own reference. So from what we've determined, it's just a public hearing that will be held through the HDC, and we will advertise that with Deb's help so that we can obtain comment from the public, and then any of our normal organizations that we work with, like the historical societies and things like that, they'll be able to provide comment as well. And we'll have that process advertised. I think it has to be advertised twice, and then we'll have the meeting, and you guys can make any updates that need to be made before approving it after that.
Megan, do you think it will be an in-person meeting?
For us to be able to have the hearing, I do not know. Likely this won't be heard by you guys at the public hearing level until I'm going to say at least April or May, just because of you meeting once a month and needing to give us comments. We fix those comments before we take it back out, and Deb has advertising deadlines that have to be met and all that kind of stuff. So I would say you're looking at least that far out in order for us to have the process. And at that point, I'm hoping we'll be back to in person, and at least maybe a socially distanced or hybrid. I'm not sure. The commissioners are to vote or to decide whether or not we go back to an in-person meeting at the end of a 45-day period, which, correct me if I'm wrong, Deb, is that the middle of this month? Middle of February? I can't remember when that meeting is that they decide. So we will let you know for your March meeting whether or not that's going to be in person.
In talking to Jennifer today, she told me that Tom Brown said that the commissioners were supposed to get an update next week. So I would say yes, by the middle of February, we should know if we're going back to in-person or not.
Thank you, Deb.
What I'm thinking also is this could be a wonderful publicity, public outreach event. I don't know, in May, I know May is Museum Month. I don't know if Preservation Month.
It is.
Yeah, so, tying that all together, the timing seems to be pretty good.
I did not plan it that way, but yes, it would be great.
You can take credit anyhow.
Well, this isn't really for any vote or anything like that. It was more of a more detailed update that I wanted to give you guys on this. So if you had any comments based on what you looked at, feel free. But like I said, I'll follow up with a copy of it soon.
Well, this looks wonderful, Megan, and thank you for presenting it. I'm really feeling excited about this thing now. We can move on to the next thing, which I'd have a question for you about customer inquiries for a couple of properties. Maybe?
Yes.
Unless we have more comments on our design guidelines, of course.
All right, hearing none. Did anybody have any questions on the staff review sheet that I sent out? Okay, I just wanted to make sure that there weren't any questions on that. It wasn't a very extensive one this time. So customer inquiries, I have had a lot of calls lately, which for you guys, to me, is great, that people have been reaching out, and we've been getting more referrals for people. And let me switch back to make sure you're seeing that screen. And the biggest thing that I wanted to talk about was I've had several towns still where I've had people contact us. So hopefully, as part of the design guidelines end of things, maybe at that point with our house in order, we will be able to work with some of the smaller towns that don't have an HDC and see if we can get the tax credits extended to them by having some sort of memorandum of agreement where we review for historic structures and tax credits in those towns. So that'll be something to look forward in the future. The addresses for those were in Williamsport, 139 West Potomac, which is the house right before the Cushwa Basin at the Park Service there. That house may be going to some renovations. The couple that own it is one of them is a contractor, so they plan to work on the structure and they were interested in tax credits. And unfortunately, Williamsport is not one of the participating towns. It's the city of Hagerstown, as a reminder. I also had a contact from a gentleman at 33 North Main Street in Boonesboro, which is a gorgeous house. And that particular property, he was trying to get it into an easement before he sold it. So I referred him to Maryland Historic Trust for that one. But if you guys have any suggestions for him for that one, I am more than open to those. But I figured they were his best bet because it is a contributing structure to that National Register district, to see if they would consider putting it under one of theirs. The other inquiry that I had was from Big Cork. They have a barn on the property, the Fink Dairy Barn. It's a rubble stone foundation barn, timber construction. And they were looking for any type of program that barn would qualify for. It's not on our listing. I did provide him the information that we have for tax credits, but I don't think that's going to make the project feasible. They need to do a lot of work to the stabilization of the barn. Apparently they were having someone from the Mennonite community come take a look at it, but the timbers and the roof needed some significant work. They keep using it for storage. So if anybody is aware of any programs that help barns, that would be something that particular customer could use some assistance with. And then the last one was an inquiry that I had today at 3940 Trago Road. And this particular customer was interested in archaeology. They had a historic house and barn on the property that their parents owned, and those particular structures had to be demolished due to being unsafe structures. They were not lived in for quite a while. They were log, and she wanted to do some archaeology work on the property before it changes hands. She's also looking at our Rural Legacy program, and that's a permanent easement, and she was trying to establish some additional history for the property. So I referred her to the Historical Society to see if they had any additional information on the property. And then I told her that she could contact Shepherd University or some of the other local universities that have archaeology programs and see if they had any student programs that might want to do that during the summer. Now's a good time to contact. But if anybody's aware of any archaeology or other resources that I could forward her to, I would appreciate that.
Megan, on the barn, I would send them to Doug Reed, who has all sorts of resources for timber structures.
Okay.
And then for the archaeology, we do have an archaeologist in Waynesboro. He runs the Little Antietam Creek Incorporated, and he does a lot of archaeology work, and he's the person that we use to do the archaeology at the Sailor House. So he may be another resource for the woman down on Trago.
Okay. You said it was, say that again, Little Antietam.
Little Antietam Creek Incorporated.
Okay, got it. Okay. Anybody have any other comments on those few. Oh, one other one, the Ringgold District, Ringgold Historic District, 14517 Barkdall Road is a contributing structure to that. If you're familiar with that district, it has a stone facade. It's kind of got blue siding on it now. It's really dark blue. That particular property has been up for sale for quite a while. We had some interest in it. And then that particular person fell through, but another customer now has it under contract, and they reached out to me. And I informed them that, you know, that is in a review area for you guys. So any exterior changes you would see. I believe it's undergone quite a few changes without permits, because the stone wasn't there before, the porch is gone. So it's had some work done, but I wanted to let you know if you see something going on at that property, that it did change hands or is potentially changing hands, and they did reach out to us, and they are aware that it is in the Ringgold Historic District.
Megan, Greg here.
Mhm.
That was quite a list. Is there a way that you could shoot the members a little email or something briefly summarizing what these are in a more
Yes.
static way? So
Mhm.
if anybody remembers something, they could respond.
Absolutely. I will send that as part of the follow-up.
It's good to hear that so many people are calling you with things of this ilk.
Yes. So hopefully, as we talk about these, I'll have some more like what Anne mentioned. I'll actually have that in my back pocket when I'm on the phone with people. But for now, I like to bring these to you guys just so I can get an idea of some of the resources that you guys are aware of. So thank you for that. And I'll send that list out. If nobody has any other comments on those, I'll move on to the next thing in the staff report.
Very good, Megan. Thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to give the growth area mailing list one last look by giving you what I had drafted to send to customers. I did receive some comments, I think it was from Anne earlier today. So if anybody else had any comments on the draft letter or the list itself, I have Michael's comments on the list. There were a few that he noted that are no longer there. So there's unfortunately no reason to send a letter to those. So I have that particular comment list, but I'm looking for any comments on the letter or any comments on the mailing.
Megan, I got through, I did the same type of review that Michael did. I was not able to complete the whole list. I probably did 2/3 of it. And there were a few properties that were missing stuff. And if Michael's noted them, I think it's okay, but I also, not to send those letters, but I also think it's okay to just send it to every property owner that theoretically has a structure on it. I mean, obviously, some of the ones that I was looking at, and I don't remember which one it is, but the barn was torn down recently, and I suspect without a permit, but the house is still back in the woods. You can see that on Google. So without doing site visits, I think it's really hard to know if absolutely everything that contributed to that inventory is there or not.
That's fair. Yeah. And I would agree that they'll let us know if it's no longer there. And we can always confirm that if they do reach out so that we can maybe do a site visit with their permission. Any other comments on the letter itself?
This is Michael. I thought it was excellent.
Thanks. Anne wanted to add some information in there about your all's mission at the very beginning. So we'll get that added in. That was, I think, her biggest comment, to add in that little bit of information there for maybe the first or second.
When did you send that letter, Megan? I don't
I
remember.
haven't. That was this is the one last hurrah before I send them out. So I
I
work
mean
in the
to-
office. Go
I
ahead.
mean, to us.
Oh, it was part of the agenda packet.
Oh, okay.
I can resend it to you directly if you'd like.
Yeah, I didn't
Sure.
notice it. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I have that noted. I will send that directly to you.
All right, Megan, if there are no further comments, we can move on to your next item.
All right. So the National Pike Logistics Center, fondly referred to as the Dickinson Farm by this group. I just wanted to give you a brief update about that. I believe that was also included in the agenda packet, the letter that MHT sent them. That is the only correspondence I had gotten. I didn't get any requests for comment from you guys again. I just got that final letter asking for their consensus with MHT's findings and that they would follow the documentation route. So I just wanted to give you that particular update and to also let you know that they have Doug Reed working with that documentation and that they are meeting with him and MHT and the gentleman that attended your all's meeting early in February, hopefully, to make sure that everything is finalized and up to the standards that MHT is requesting, and there's no other questions about that. So I just wanted to let you know that they are still plugging away at that and seem to be keeping up with their statements they made to you during your meeting.
This is Michael. I went by there on Monday and they've got the heavy equipment ready to go and a construction trailer in there.
Yes, I think the meeting in early February with MHT is ahead of them signing the paperwork and submitting the documentation and everything. They want to make sure that everything's in order before they finalize everything. So I would say it probably is imminent, especially if they're sitting there with the equipment.
So does that mean that where the natural spring came out, does that mean that they cannot put that warehouse? Is that what they're saying? They cannot just do anything to upset that natural spring?
The waterways are protected by Maryland Department of the Environment, just generally when a site is developed. So I'm not sure if you're referring to the spring house itself that MHT made a strong recommendation that they tried to keep.
Right. Yeah. That's what.
I don't think that didn't come up in the email chain that I saw where they mentioned that they were going to be meeting with them. But if I get an update about it, I'll let you know. As far as I know, the site plan still includes demolishing that particular structure as well, just because of the proximity and the stability of the site, I guess. We encourage them to keep that as well. But I don't think that is in their current plans as they are. But if that changes with their meeting with MHT, they've been communicative. I'll let you guys know. Any other questions about that one? Okay. So I did want to give you a quick update about Price's Bridge, which you see the inventory number up here on the screen. That particular bridge is, I think it's 5 spans of a stone arch bridge, and it is currently not in wonderful shape. It was damaged in the floods in the 70s. I think it was Agnes or one of the hurricanes that came through. And the new bridge was built and that particular bridge was abandoned. The county has started working toward fully documenting that to see if it will be eligible for National Register and whether or not that particular bridge has any other funding types that can be used to help stabilize it and preserve it. It is still the county's intent to get that stabilized and updated. But we don't have a current plan in place for it, but that's what they're trying to do with it. So if you hear any inquiries about Price's Bridge, that's what it's in reference to. The county is trying to work with a consultant to get it documented and see what avenues of funding there are to be able to keep that bridge and get it stabilized. So if we are asked to be involved in the process, I will let you guys know, but I wanted to, since some of you guys have groups that you work with that might be asked for information, I think Tom was as well. You might hear about it. So I just wanted to let you know that yes, it is being worked on.
Megan, you may want to contact Waynesboro. I don't know who in Waynesboro did it, but there's a 2 or 3 span bridge across the Antietam, the east branch of the Antietam, just south of Waynesboro, that hasn't been used in years when they built the new Welty Road Bridge or whatever. But they just restored that. And I don't know where they got the funding, but I do know that, you know, they restored all the mortar work and everything.
Okay.
It's not used as a vehicular bridge or anything. So that just maybe somebody, they may have some ideas for the county.
Okay. I think the county's intent is we have plans for in the county overall for part of our parks plan to have a water trail along the creek. And I think that would make another good kind of like Wilson's Bridge, just a nice spot to have picnic area and maybe a put in for water access. So I think that's the ultimate goal. The Public Works Director and the Director of Engineering, so the gentleman that fixes the bridge and the gentleman that's in charge of maintenance of the bridge are working together to try and get a plan set up for this. So I will let them know about that particular one in Waynesboro too. Any other comments on that one? Okay. And I did want to let you know that I had a staff review that was outside of the listing that you guys had that was for section 106 for 9004 National Pike. It was strictly a replacement of equipment on an existing silo placed cell tower. So it's the equipment is mounted to the side of the silo and they were just updating it. So I went ahead and said that we had no comment on that one, or their staff had no comment on that one since it's an existing cell tower. So I just wanted to make you aware that that one will have an equipment update to it. If that is something that you would like to see in the future, rather than having staff review it, please let me know. Okay. And last but not least, let me switch back to this other screen. Can you guys see the HDC website?
Yes.
Okay. Way back, you guys did talk to me about having some cemetery information, and I approached you about it too, about having some more cemetery information on the website for customers. So I'm happy to say that that was one of the things over Christmas and more recently that I was able to try to compile. So I would encourage you to please take a look at the link that's here, and I'll follow up after the meeting as well with the link, but it is on the website here. We have some information here about locating cemeteries. The cemeteries that we have on file at the county have been added to the normal historic sites map. And then we also have a just cemetery specific one in this particular little web application. We have additional resources for people to try and locate the cemeteries that we have. Talking about conserving and documenting cemeteries and having management and preservation plans and getting them out to some of the groups and entities that are good sources of information to be able to write those and take care of these cemeteries. A couple of brief videos from the Coalition to Protect Maryland Burial Sites. We got some information on there from them and from Preservation Maryland. We did try to summarize some of the information from government resources about how cemeteries work in the state of Maryland and when you're allowed to enter property or not allowed to enter property, some of the regulations that the county follows regarding cemeteries. And then we also have, again, some non-governmental organization referrals for people. So Preservation Maryland, Coalition to Protect Maryland Burial Sites, and then linking back to the same additional local resources that we have on our customer resources page for people to be able to locate some of these and some of the people that might be able to help them research. And then just a brief little note about why this page exists. But this page is already live, but I didn't feel like it was too controversial. And we had talked about it before, but I would really love some feedback from you guys. I did send it out to some of our staff first to see if they had any thoughts about what I might be missing, but now I'm asking the same of you. So I will send this out for your review before the next meeting. If you want to send me an email, you can just send me some comments directly on it.
That sounds good, Megan. On its face here, it looks more than lovely.
Thanks. I hope it'll be a good resource for us to point customers to, because we did get quite a few calls on these. And I think after all that, I am done.
Very well then. I want to thank everybody here for a really good meeting. We actually had a lot to talk about this evening. Now that we seem to be done, do I hear a motion to adjourn our meeting?
This is Michael. I make a motion, we adjourn.
This is Ann. I'll second it.
All right, having a motion in a second, let's vote for adjournment. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned for this month, and we'll talk again on March 2. Thank you, Megan and Deb.
Thank you.